That's it. I've had enough, and I'm going to do something I don't normally do. This may come as a shock to a lot of people here, but it's warranted in this situation. I'm going to complain. I'm breaking new ground here, and I realize you may not have ordered the wine off the menu, but I'm still going to bring it to your table anyway. I just made a video on the second channel talking about this, and I figured, you know what, now I've got it out of my system. I won't need to carry on the temper tantrum, stomping my feet and scream crying like a baby with diaper rash. But how wrong I was. I watched the PlayStation showcase today, and it reminded me that Street Fighter 6 is just around the corner. So I went on Steam to preload the game, only to find out that it's a 60 gigabyte game. And I almost let out a wail straight out of Tom and Jerry, one of those yow things. It just infuriates me. It grinds my ass. I am so tired of this trend in the modern gaming industry where not a single iota of care is given to optimization at all. Like, the minimum requirements to play some of these games is absurd. You'll need like a $2,000 gaming computer in order to play Lord of the Rings Gollum on low settings. Like, it's so stupid. And not only like the price point to even play some of the games at the minimum level, like, the amount of space you need to allocate for a single game is ridiculous too. Like, Call of Duty is 120 gigabytes or something. For that size, I would expect that game to actually come out of the computer and suck my wiener and fondle my nuts like it's playing with Fushigi contact juggling balls. Like, that is so stupid. Like, how large the games are because they don't bother to compress it, and how expensive it is to even get into modern gaming on the PC. Because again, they're not bothering with optimization anymore, and I don't fully blame the developers, because I really think this is a byproduct of this fucking turbo fixation on deadlines, like the strictest deadlines ever. So the devs have to focus on trying to make the game as polished and as good as they can, which often doesn't even really happen half the time. But they can't then allocate resources to making sure the game can run well on less high-end hardware. Like, I definitely really think this is a management problem where they're not allowing the developers to optimize the game. Like, they're not giving them enough time to even go through that process, which is why the minimum requirements to play modern games is getting higher and higher and higher, and the amount of space they take up is getting higher and higher and higher. And I think it's just actual dog shit. It's going in the wrong direction for gaming. You shouldn't be paywalling people out of playing games on the PC. Period. Like, as games progress, the hobby should become cheaper and more accessible over time. Not like something only enjoyed by the uber wealthy who can have like a $10,000 supercomputer and have like a fucking Zordon AI assistant in order to help run Forspoken 2, right? Now, Forspoken I actually think is a great example of this phenomenon. It's a laughable joke of a game. Forspoken is terrible. But it required crazy rigs in order to just function properly for the most part, for most people. Like, the recommended ask for the game was enough to make people slap their knee and giggle because it is so silly how expensive the rig you'd even need to play the game with the way they recommend it. For no real reason either. It's not the most breathtaking game ever made. It's not some like innovation in the industry, unless of course you're classifying over-the-top annoyingness as an innovation, going where no game has gone before with making the player have a fucking perpetual headache listening to the awful dialogue. But like, there's just nothing in the game that would justify those requirements. It's so silly. Now, I want to play some clips from the video I posted on my second channel yesterday because it goes more in depth on Lord of the Rings Gollum in particular, because I think that is just another perfect case study of this awful trend in gaming. No matter what computer you're running, there should be some capability of it to run a modern game. Within reason, of course. Like, if you're on like 15-year-old hardware, yeah, I can understand why most games probably won't be optimized for that. But in general, there's no reason that people should be paywalled from playing modern games on the PC. There just isn't. You shouldn't need a fucking 4090 in order to play, Redfall and still only get 30 FPS. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And what's got me talking about this today is there's a game coming out that I'm sure most of you have either forgot about or never cared about in the first place. It's the Gollum game, the Lord of the Rings Gollum game. And I just learned that the minimum requirements to play this game are extremely high. Like, the computer specs you need in order to run this game, bare minimum, are still laughably expensive. Like, you still need pretty top-of-the-line equipment for the most part in order to run it well. Or at all, I suppose. And that just doesn't make any sense because the Gollum game doesn't even look good. It looks like shit. I'm hoping the game will at least be fun. I'm gonna give it a fair shake of the sauce bottle here, give it a whirl, but I'm not expecting much. The trailers and everything they've shown, the game is not visually impressive by any means. It looks barely above a normal indie title you'd find dumpster diving through Steam new releases. So how could they possibly justify the minimum requirements here? It's not adding up. Those were the clips from the second channel video. I realized that you couldn't see a difference since I'm still wearing the same shirt. My hair's pretty much the same. So you probably didn't even realize that it wasn't the same video, but yeah. I was going in depth on Lord of the Rings Gollum in particular. Now, another thing I touched on that I want to expand on in this video is that this is usually a big red flag that the PC port of a game is trash. Now, Lord of the Rings Gollum looks like a game that you'd find on a Nintendo Switch. And that's because it is. Lord of the Rings Gollum is on the Nintendo Switch. So why the fuck can it run on the Switch, which struggles with like a normal mobile game? That thing would probably fucking explode if you fed it Angry Birds. Why can Lord of the Rings Gollum run on the Switch, and then on the PC be so demanding that you need a pretty high-end gaming computer to run it at all, really? It isn't making any sense. Now, usually it's because there was absolutely no effort put into a PC port. That's usually what it means. I can't really think of many examples where a PC port of a game comes out with these big specs that you need in order to run it, and huge file size, all of that, and then it actually being in a good state. Usually it's a broken, buggy mess, and just a genuinely terrible experience. Like a horrible PC port. That's usually how these things play out. Like, this is a big red flag to me now, where if a game's like, hey, you need, at least a 4090 to play this game with even medium graphics, and it's also 280 gigabytes, I'm usually thinking to myself, this game's gonna fucking suck, isn't it? This game's barely going to be functional. That's just how I've been conditioned from modern gaming. Now, of course, I'm not speaking in absolutes here. There definitely are exceptions. There are some games that come out on the PC that are fantastic, like great PC ports, super polished, no problems at all. But that's kind of rare. Like, that doesn't happen super often anymore. The trend is going down, where the quality of the PC ports is getting worse and worse and worse, for some reason. Yet, the demands in order to play them are getting higher and higher and higher. It's just all fucking cattywampus. It's all backwards here, really, and it's really frustrating. At the end of the day, it sucks. I wish developers were given more time to fully polish these PC ports, because when you release a bad PC port, we just talked about this with Jedi Survivor, you do yourself a huge disservice. You immediately ruin the reputation of the game, and it never really fully recovers from it. If you have a bad PC launch, that alienates a large group of consumers, and it gives horrible press to the game overall that extends even into the console market, where, people that maybe aren't super tuned in to the discussion around games will hear through the grapevine like, oh, Jedi Survivor fucking sucks? It barely works? Oh, okay, well, I guess I won't even bother getting the PS5 version of it then. Because when you release a bad PC port, people are obviously upset, so they talk about it. And people hear about it. So even if someone was considering it on, like, a console, they'll think twice when they hear what everyone else is saying about how it is on PC. I don't know why developers haven't realized that. Releasing a shitty, haphazardly thrown together PC port never works out well for the game, period. And it never actually fully recovers either, even if they do go back and tweak it and fix it and make it functional and better. Like, I always appreciate they do that, but it never recovers from that, and it should have just been done in the first place instead of releasing a incomplete, not fully functional product. That's unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable. I know I'm getting a little off on a tangent here, but it all just kind of ties in together with the modern gaming state on the PC in particular. It's just frustrating. It's just overall very frustrating. So I wanted to rant about it again, and that's about it. So yeah.